All right, friends. Remember our little Oliver 500? Well, today's topic, or today's video, is about 500s. So we'll get to talking about that right after this. Welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Rouse the Oliver Man. This here, Oliver 500, is really a David Brown in Oliver-esque sheet metal. They put their own looking grill on it, but it should be about the same as an 850 David Brown. And if you know anything about these, well, there weren't that many of them in the grand scheme of things in the United States, but there is one place where a whole bunch of them seem to have went, and that's down around Eazell, Kentucky. And so when we went down there a few days ago to talk to viewer David, who is also the leading expert on these in the Oliver group, we got to talking about them, and he has two of them. He has two gas 500s, which are pretty neat because there's some differences between the gas and diesel, and there wasn't really that many gas ones made in the grand scheme of things compared to the diesels. So anyway, I went down there to get a 550, and then we went over and looked at his stuff, and we started talking, and it ended up that it was enough for a video on its own. So that's what you're going to see, the video of me and him talking and discussing things. And if you have one of these tractors, the discussion might help you because we covered a lot of stuff in it, just going back and forth off of each other. So anyway, I'll let you watch that footage right now. Looky there.
Now that's the one that come from the dealer, same dealer as my dad's tractor.
Oh yeah, because you got two now because of that other one. That one was the one that was going to be the parts tractor? Yep. Okay, so this is the one that you got originally to replace the one your dad had.
That's exactly right.
And you got to tell the camera that story. They sold a ton of these because of what reason, or how was that? You were a kid when he bought it, I guess. So
before I was born.
Oh, it was before you was born?
Because it was, Dad bought it in February of 62.
Oh, look at that. He's got the original owner's book, operator's guide.
That actually come with the tractor. They actually had that.
Wow.
Well, let me back up. The fourth owner, I think, is the one gave it to me because he said, you got the tractor now. And I'll tell you a story on the drawbar.
Yeah.
On it. The fourth owner had it and didn't know what it was. It was in the barn. It was in the barn in a stall. Where it goes on the tractor, buried in the ground.
Wow.
And they didn't know what it was. They just said it come with the tractor.
See, I got mine too, and there's what you'd have to do: take the 3-point arms off and hook them to the drawbar, and that's how you did that. Change your.
They're on the wall.
Oh, you got the top one. Yep, just like mine. It's got that.
On the wall where it says B.
Oh yeah, B. The
green bean.
Okay, B. Yeah.
That's
and you got the. See, you got the original muff. Well, no. Well, is that? No.
It's aftermarket because what fakes everybody out.
Yeah,
actually everybody's acquainted with the aftermarket.
Yeah, because.
And muffler.
Because Nelson had never seen one. When he saw mine, he said, because he was asking me, and I said, that's not the way mine's made. It's got a cone on it at the bottom that goes over the, like, so none of the exhaust escapes or something, and then both ends are rounded, you know.
That's the original.
And yeah, and that was the original. Oh, that's cool. Got the original receipt, $2,781 with the equipment, tractor and a disc, a plow, a mower, and a wagon.
And right there's the guy that sold it new.
That's cool.
Lonnie Ambergy.
And he's the one that made these too, isn't he?
Yep. What he done, this is actually fits a 55 or 550.
And he cut it off and made a...
Well, he didn't cut nothing off it, actually. This would have bolted, you know how you can put...
Oh, yeah, on the flat part, yeah.
Bolted. Well, what he did is he come into the loader pads. Now, he put this piece to space it out.
That's a good idea.
And he put this in, and he put that into the front loader pads, okay? Then he welded it in here, and then he welded this piece here to make it sturdy. Now, that one's got a bumper on it, but it didn't have a bumper on it, but I traded for a guy that had an original hamburger tractor that was going to out, and I actually traded him out of the bumper.
He actually, on this one, made the underneath to go in those holes underneath, too, huh?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why he done that, I think. These holes right here is for a PAL backer setter barrel. And the barrel mounted right here.
Okay.
And right here. It mounted right here and right here. Well, it put weight down on that bumper.
So he added those underneath.
I went ahead and added that. But now you're talking about the muffler tire. See, both of these have got the aftermarket muffler.
Yeah.
And the aftermarket muffler. That's all everybody knows. And like that one you're talking about, Nelson had never seen.
Yeah, he had never seen.
I've seen several of them in the old days, but the gasoline went first because the manifolds burn up on them.
Really? Now, are these both gas?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's another one. I'd like to collect a gas one because I have never had it. I mean, there was one in Ohio that showed up on Marketplace. I think you sent it to me, the link, or somebody else did too. And that turned into a shady deal pretty quick because all of a sudden then another guy messaged me and he said, hey, my neighbor's got one for sale, and there's the same picture. And I said, now wait a minute. I said, the guy I'm talking to on there is telling a different story. Well, it never came to be then. So I don't know if that was a scam or who.
Now, I will show you something that was on the 63 model. Now,
okay.
If you'll note, on the 63 model, they had different axle, different final drives, and there's difference in them.
And like they had five lug wheels on the early ones.
62, yeah, on 62 back. Now, I'll show you something else here in a minute if I think of it. Okay, now this drawbar bracket, see how this one don't have that?
Yeah.
This drawbar bracket, even though the holes was under.
Oh, that
is for the 63 model. Somebody had put that bracket on there. So all I had to do, I had this made. So all I had to do is have that made. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So that's interesting because that's kind of how the 600 one is. It has that piece on it.
600, the last 500, the 63 model 500s are made like the 600.
Like the 600.
Yes.
So there you go.
But now the holes are under these tractors.
And the 3-point arms fit in those brackets like that. Yeah, that's just how that one is.
So what somebody down the line on this tractor right here put the later bracket under. And anyway, which I didn't have no drawbars with this tractor. I had the lift arms. And this was an aftermarket bar right here. But that one hanging on the wall is not aftermarket.
That's the original
500 bar right there.
That's cool. So that's the, and that's how you tell the difference, the flat open space and how wide it is, yeah.
Yeah, see how where the pin is, how square it is?
That's cool.
Kind of round, the aftermarket's more rounded off a little bit.
Huh.
I'll show you something that I learned from the David Brown guys. And it lines up on these two tractors.
Okay.
Okay, this tractor here is a 60 model. Okay, it's about the last one or two made in 60.
Okay.
Okay, it's got clamps on the breather, right?
Okay.
They told me in 62 they went to the band, which is right here.
Really? So mine must be later then. Or was it different on diesels?
I don't know about that.
Because I'm thinking mine's got a band, but I don't know if I've ever really paid that close attention.
A 60 model?
I think it's a 61.
It had the band.
Okay.
60 had the clamps.
Okay.
61, 2, and 3 had the band. And the drawbar bracket, as I was telling you, that was a difference in 63. And they had 8 lug rear wheels, which you already know about. And 5 or 6 lug front wheels.
Yeah.
And the clutch or the brake pedal come through the running board instead of in front.
And that's also when they switched that. And they did away with the gas ones, didn't they? Whenever
there's no 63 model gas.
There's no 6 lug gas 500s because they would all be 5 lugs. That's what I was going to say.
You're right about that, yeah. The only thing that's not original on this tractor, which I tried to stay original to it, I put this one wire alternator on it so the battery lasts long.
Yeah, because mine, I have to keep charging my battery. It's not working right.
I've got the original generator laying back there.
I haven't dove into that yet to see how. I'll have to do that on that 600 because it was missing all that stuff. And I got a new generator and a new regulator, and I'm going to see if I can make her go. But
I'm going to tell you how this story started. I always wanted one of these tractors. Now, my dad's burnt in 75. He had overhauled in 74. Like they never got the parts for it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That would have been about 10 years after it was, or so, a little more.
And
so
it had it overhauled in 74. Actually, at a David Brown dealers where it's overhauled at, and everybody got parts for it. The D&H Oliver sales got some. Lonnie Amberg at Camargo tractor sales got some, and the David Brown dealer got some. Well, they finally got enough parts to overhaul it. Well, when they did in the spring of 75, it caught on fire under the fuel tank somewhere. And it burnt this whole right side down, but it wasn't nothing you couldn't fix. I begged my dad to keep that tractor, but he said, no, I can't get a look up to that thing. So he ended up selling it back to the guy that sold it to him brand new because he wanted it for a parts dollar.
And he parted it out.
Before it left, the only thing I've got of it is there's a center link with an arm missing.
And
that's the original center.
Off your dad's truck, and then you also have the key, don't you?
Yeah,
I was gonna
tell you about that too. Okay, now Dad found this when he was looking. We was looking for
PTO cover.
We was looking for some stuff once upon a time, and I don't know, he was down the barn or something. They was gouging around through some stuff.
That's cool.
And Dad said, well, I wonder whatever happened to that. And I said, what? You know, it's long before I ever bought one of these. I said, what is that? Because I never seen it on, Dad.
Yeah.
I said, what is that? He said, that's a PTO cap to buy Oliver. And I want that. So I've kept it with me all these
That's
years.
cool.
And when the tractor, before it left, it was going to be a parts store because it never be fixed up. So before it left, I reached in, pulled the key out of it. And
there
actually,
it is.
I probably used it enough with this tractor you can't see it, but it had blue on it where it was in the fire.
Where it got hot.
Yeah, it was in the fire. And so when I bought this, the last thing I did when I got everything done, stuck that key in it.
That's cool.
And but getting back to how this all started, I always wondered. Well, finally, this one come up for sale, and I bought it. Well, I brought it in and I redone it, and I wanted me and Dad to use it. Well, of course, I think it was Jim Armstrong had helped Chris write that article. Well, I had got hooked up with Jim Armstrong and Elmer Landon, and they helped direct me on parts. Well, so when other people had these tractors, they said, well, David McGuire's got one. So, you know, they would call me.
Yeah.
And they'd ask me, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? Where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? And then in the process, they also hooked me up with a guy in England, Peter Williams.
Yeah, I've heard.
He was a good...
He's the guy who has that store, doesn't he, that sells parts?
Yes.
That's what I was going to say.
He was good part source and help, and so was Elmer Landman. Elmer Landman was a good part source and good help. So anyway, by word of mouth, I guess, people started calling me. Well, I would write down their name, if I could, you know, if they give it to, you know, their name, what they had, where this from. And I had probably 18 or 20 or something like that names. A few, had 2 or 3, 5, 600s. I had mostly, about all of them was 500s, and there was like 20 some names, I guess, and tractors and everything. Well, Nelson bought and in the meantime, Jim Irwin bought one, and Nelson bought one. Well, they somehow or another,
And
you know, the internet or what have you, they got hooked up with me. Well, they called me, and Jim, it was, Nelson called me before the winter show in 16 up there at Washington Courthouse. And he called me and he said, I said, well, I'm coming up to that. Well, we'll meet up there. So Jim Irwin had come out of Canada. So I brought a bunch of paperwork with me. And we sat down at a table for 3 hours.
Wow.
And we went over a bunch of stuff. And Nelson said, I want to start a
registry.
I said, okay, I'll help you any way I can. So I give him my names. You know, also I made copies of them, and I kept, you know, but I let him. And then he started going around visiting these guys.
Yeah.
Well, so a lot of people thought, you know, and Nelson knew. I mean, he learned a lot about them as he went along, you know. But they thought, which he was the go-to guy. But what he was doing, he was calling me.
To ask you stuff about, yeah.
And when he done a seminar up there. Where was it at? I forget which show.
Yeah, and you're the one who actually grew up with one. Yeah.
And what it was, see, I learned a lot from Dad.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, and the dealer here, because my gosh, they sold how many of these? That's very unusual to sell that many.
Well, I couldn't tell you exactly. I couldn't put a figure on it, but I'll tell you how he wound up with what he did.
It was over a dozen, wasn't it? Wouldn't you say?
Oh Lord, I'm not telling this. Yeah, I know. I probably know of 5 or 6 still left. And
yeah.
But anyway, there's no telling how many he sold, and there's most, and the gasolines are more rare, and that's what he sold.
That's what I was going to ask, if he sold more gas or diesel.
I'll tell you how that happened. What he told Dad. Oliver, I didn't get all the details put together, but it falls back to I found a tractor that rode in with Dad's.
Okay.
And because the guy's son that had bought it told me that when they parted Dad's out, they took a clutch out of Dad's and put it in his. And he was telling me about it, he rode in with Dad's. Well, I looked at the VIN number. I later on run into this tractor, and it was 100550. Okay, that's the 50th tractor made in 1961.
Okay.
Okay, which I'm satisfied. And then I run into another tractor that the bumper come off of, and it was like, I don't know, it was pretty close to that numbers. Well, anyway, so evidently Lonnie Emberg was a Camargo tractor sales. He must have got a bunch of 61s. Well, what happened is when Dad went to buy his tractor, the tractor, it wasn't on the lot. See, what happened when he priced Dad priced the Ford outfit for $3,000, same stuff. Priced the 550, same stuff, $3,000. Well, you seen the receipt right there.
27.
Exactly. But Lonnie told him, he said, now I've got a Ford. He said, it's Oliver made, it's a foreign made Oliver. Now he said, I've got them back here in the shop. I'm working on them. He's putting fluid in the tires, and he's getting them ready to go, putting a bumper on them, fluid in the tires, getting ready to go. Now he said, I can't sell you one of them because they're sold.
Yeah.
He said, my truck's been going to New York. I've been sending my truck up to New
He
York.
probably got 2 at a time, huh?
On 3 at a time.
3,
okay.
Okay.
Piggybacking them.
Yeah,
on
okay.
16 foot, he said, a 55 GMC truck with a 16 foot flat, and they was rolling them up on top of the front wheels up on this.
Wow.
Them. And he said, I'm bringing in 3 at a time. So he said, the next load I bring in, I'll have your tractor on it. Well, come to find out, 2 of those tractors, one was Dad's and one was Lewis Walters, I think was the guy's name. Anyway, I think it was. Anyway, that had his serial number was 550. Well, so anyway, this one was bought about the same time in there somewhere, and it's 528. So what it was, we talked about this at Chris Lucy, and some of us talked about this the other day. These tractors was in New York when Lonnie picked them up. Okay, they was in New York.
So other people got some too in between there, probably.
So we know that they didn't sit on the lot a year. Now, see, Dad's receipt is February 24th, 1962. Bought a brand new tractor in 62. But they're being 61 models. So what happened? Well, from what I could find out, and this is Nelson done a lot of digging on this. When Oliver had sold out to White took over November 1960.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah.
Okay, well, see, they'd made the deal. But
to buy them or at it, yeah.
David Brown, well, see, they didn't know if White was going to honor it or not, and they was afraid to get their money. Now, this is what I was told over in England. They was afraid they wouldn't get their money, so they sat on these tractors to see if White was going to honor it. Well, White went ahead and gave them a go-ahead, said, yeah, we're not going to change anything. So they went ahead and gave them the go-ahead. Well, so with that being said, then when where Lonnie come in at, and I knew that on the USA end, Lonnie told Dad, he said, I had to take so many of them
in order to get it,
and I had to pay for them by a certain time of the month. And he said, had to have them paid for, and had to get. And he said, and told Dad, he made a remark. He said, it cost me more to get much or more to get the tractor down here than I paid for the tractors. And you see right there that he was selling for $2,700.
Yeah, so that's really kind of odd, because you'd think he'd eat up all of his savings just in what he had to truck them down here for. Even 3 at a time, that's still, unless they gave him a really great deal on the whole lot. I mean,
well. I think that's what happened. I think where he agreed to take them all, and what he agreed to take well, the way it worked out, just most of them wound up being gasolines.
Yeah, that is unusual.
That's why he put so many gasolines.
Do we know, through the looking it up, how many gas did they make? Do we know that exactly?
I've never been able to put a figure on it. I was always told it was about a fourth of the.
I was going to say, I don't think it was very many.
I was always told by some of the David Brown guys overseas that they thought nothing's been, I've not found no paperwork on it or anything, but they thought about a fourth of them was gasoline. When Lonnie put a pretty good handful of them in this area.
Yeah, that's unusual to have one place where they sold dozens of them. I mean,
he had bought them on a deal.
Yeah, bought a whole lot of them.
And just like with Nelson, what would happen, like when he was in that seminar that time, and he said, now he told me on that seminar, he said, now let me tell you, he said, don't you get up and go to the bathroom.
Because I might need your...
He said, don't you go nowhere, because these guys are going to ask me questions I can't answer. And I said, well, what do you think I can answer them?
Yeah.
But I had brought some paperwork with me. And there's a picture of Nelson, Greg, I think Greg Davis took it. Nelson and myself and Jim Irwin. There's three.
I remember seeing that picture.
You'll notice I'm holding a bunch of paperwork to back myself up, in case somebody asked me something I didn't know. But I was trying to back up my answers, in case I run into something that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what would happen, I mean, people, they said, well, they'd call it or message whatever Nelson, and Nelson would get back with me, because I remember one particular time, and I had Katie with my granddaughter with me, and we was feeding cattle, and it was real cold, and Nelson called me, and I was coaching him through. He's telling me about a diesel that he needed to do this or do that, and I was coaching him through it. Had Katie on this, I pulled, let's go home, and I was trying to do like this, but he would when people would ask him questions, then he would call me and say, somebody asked me this, what do we do? I said, well, this, and this. Or if I didn't know, I looked it up.
Yeah.
And then he'd get back with him, So he was the go-to guy. He was the guy up front, but I was the guy in the back. But then when he passed, then everybody asked me.
Then you got to be the keeper of the flame. You got the list back. And
people asked me, about taking it, and I said, well, I don't want to jump in front of nobody.
He came down, and he wanted me to do it when I bought that first one, and he did it. But I had to buy the whole works, buy all of his stuff he had left that he had on that auction, the tractors and everything. And I did not have the money at the time that he was talking about. And I thought, boy, that's a risk to take a loan out to try to do something where you're not. And he wanted to, he didn't want any of it to go. But I would have had to sell some to get my money back, so I didn't lose it all,
Yeah.
And it was because it was up there. Now he had about maybe 3 or 4 that were nice, I would say, ready to go tractors. 2 of them were at that winter show. I saw pictures of, that.
And that was my pulley that was
on that one.
Tractor was on that one. If you noticed, it was painted, and the rest of the tractor wasn't. It had been painted on this tractor.
So anyway, it.
See, I put this blanking plate back on. But there's a gear in here
that you gotta have. You could put it
if
right
I
back.
want to put it back on, I could.
So anyway, what I'm saying is, most of what he had, I would consider to be parts tractors of these and things, and of course that all went with it. And I'd love to have it, but they really didn't have the value to justify what he priced it at. And the other thing is, by the time I'd haul that all home, I'd had a fortune in trucking back and forth.
Yeah.
Even with a gooseneck trailer, that would have been quite a few loads of stuff, and I don't know.
Well, what I told him, I said, look, he asked me, because he couldn't get up and take it, and he asked me that. And I said, now look, I'll take it if nobody else wants it. I said, I don't want to step in front of anybody, but I'll tell you what you tell them. Whoever you pick to take it, you tell them. I'm a phone call away or a message away.
Yeah.
I will support them. I will help them any way I can. And then Joy come to me and she asked me about it. She said, would you keep it going? I said, well, yeah.
Yeah, because see, there's the thing. Like I would have been in on some of it, but I didn't want to do that list with the names, and he would not. It had to all be one. He would not entertain any idea other than it all being one lot of stuff that stayed together, and I couldn't do that. I would have bought 2 or 3 of his tractors, because I'd like to had like a gas one of these, and I wouldn't have mind to have like the later one, the 6 lug, well, the 600 low, and then you know, like the later stuff, so that you had all the variations. But yeah, I don't know. Now, on the topic of 600s, I don't know what you know or don't know on that, but how come most of them fall outside of the serial number range that everybody thought? Like mine's outside of that, but it's very obviously was.
Well,
did they order some later and just use up the parts they had, or?
I think that may have what happened. I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, and as a fact, I'm just going on what I've been told, and what I've been told is from some of the David Brown guys in England is they finished out some orders. You know, and it was outside the cylinder. That's what I was told. Now, how accurate that is,
that's what I figured probably happened, because they probably already had stuff ready to go, like the, you know.
I've not got nothing to stand behind what I just said.
Yeah.
And there's two 600s. The 62 model had the battery 260.
Yeah. And mine's got the later one with it up under the grill.
Well, if it's outside the serial, of course, it's definitely after 63. So it'd definitely be in that, like what they call the first run, second run. They actually call these 500s the first run, second run.
And what's interesting here, like, now did that one come from this dealer here or not?
No.
Okay.
Now, this one here, I hauled it out of Indiana. It come actually from Martinsburg, I think.
Okay.
Was where I picked this one.
So, but what's unusual is both of these still have the good battery, the battery box with the tags. You know, a lot of the battery boxes were missing.
Them battery boxes as being redone. Now this one here had to redo the bottom,
but you still had the tag. That's the. I mean,
this was the original. I had to go back to I think I went to the 5th owner, and I got this battery. This is the original battery lid.
And it's taller because it hits the seat like that.
Okay. Now that right there, I had to get that off Peter Williams.
Okay.
Okay. Now I didn't have nothing on that tractor there, and I had to redo the whole long battery box. But Peter only had one for a diesel. So I've got a dummy hole up front. I had to cut a hole in the back for it to fit on a gasoline. Plus the blanking plate, I got it off Peter Williams.
Oh, so did all the gasolines have that low? They had that blanking plate. Okay.
See, but people actually took them off. That's why I can't find them. They took them off
because they could use it as a toolbox or something.
Exactly right. They throw pins in them all.
And anyway, so mine's all original. Mine had all the the battery box, but I didn't have the lids. I got the lids from Nelson.
Yeah,
but and then what I did was I put one battery in, but it still had the original crossover cable through here. Yeah. So I just connected them together in there so it looks right from the outside, but it's not really. Well, it's just one battery.
If I was redoing one, a diesel, instead of putting 2 6-volt in it, I'd put the 112 like a gasoline.
That's what yeah, because nowadays we got better batteries than what they had back in the day.
D&H Oliver sales had ordered a tack and never sold it. And when I went through...
Oh, so you got that, that's an original?
But it's not for this tractor. I'll tell you why. Because the one for this tractor would have not had the belt pulley, is the PTO's wrong on it.
Okay.
See, it's got, you notice how it's got two different belt, two different speeds.
Oh yeah, standard.
That's for a 63 model, because see they had a 2-speed
PTO box.
Exactly. And when you find a tack, you'll
know the difference by that.
Well, you'll never find the original.
Yeah.
For the 60 to 62, you'll never find the tack.
It's all replaced with these. It's
replaced with that. But that is actually a tack that was on the shelf for years.
So have you put 3,200 hours on this tractor since you had?
No, it had about 2,500 on it, and what I did is I run it up to where it was originally. So this is supposed to be. Let's see. I probably put in the time I've had, it's got almost 3,300. It had 25, so I put $800 on it in 20 years. Okay. In July, I will have owned this tractor 20 years, so I put $800 on it in 20 years. But anyway, it had 2,500 and some change on it. And I run the new tack. I run it up. You know, I actually took it apart. And
so you didn't sit there with a drill and just.
I took it apart, and it's kind of like putting a Rubik's cube together, get them all lined up in the same place. And but I was fortunate.
That's cool.
Grill in it. Now this year, I got that grill out of a boneyard.
Wow, that you never see those.
No,
I mean, that one I got from Joy was the last one probably
Was
because she said those parts were going to be in that auction, but see, they moved that auction and I couldn't go. That auction was supposed to be one time and then they moved it
later on.
and I didn't get to go, so I didn't get. I'd have bought most of the parts just to have them for.
Yeah, I'd like to see you got them because that way you could help people that had them.
Yeah, so I don't know.
You notice the difference in the hoods on the gas and the diesel?
They got those louvers in them, and I think that's cool too.
And they get hot too.
Really?
I tell you what, you work on if you're plowing a lot, it'll boil the gas in them.
Wow. Yeah, that's neat though.
And
to find
you never see one but what you don't have to change the manifold on it. Both of these.
on the gas ones.
Both of these, they rot out, and both of them. Now Peter Williams there for a while had them. He was selling them aftermarket, but he said it was a one-time thing. He said he'd have to.
To tool up for them. Did they not make a gas David Brown over there in England, like a version of this, or not?
Cropmeister.
But they did sell it as a gas over there too, huh?
Yeah, the Cropmeister.
Okay.
Yeah, it had the guy. Cropmeister had the same engine. I reckon what I was told was this right here.
Okay.
And speaking of your hand on the steering wheel, made me think of it. What I run into is when that steering shaft is an inch shorter. When you find them on the internet or whatever, which I think Peter Williams now is handling them where they're an inch longer. They're an inch shorter. So what I had to do is I let this go down in here further and re-drill the hole. So actually this steering wheel is an inch lower than that one right there is. Because I was able to rebuild that column without having to change. So
the steering column is shorter, the newer one,
well, because the shaft in it, I had to adapt the column for the shaft. And reason I couldn't use the shaft because where it's got the worm gear and everything, you lay your finger where the ball's supposed to be.
Boy!
So I couldn't use it. So I had to get one an inch shorter. That's all I could get. So what I done is like I just shoved this, loosened these bolts, and there's a set screw here somewhere. So I think it's in the front. And you just scoot it down to where it fits, and I just re-drilled the hole for the set screw and then tighten it back up. So it's an inch shorter, it's an inch lower. That steering wheel is, and that right there is, because that's the original shaft in it.
Now, what have you done about these rubbers? Because I've replaced them, and they don't last. Have you ever figured out any solution on that?
I'll just tell you exactly what I do. I buy a box at a time.
That's what I had to do too. I got to ordered a bunch more because
I've got extra ones right now.
Luckily, last time I caught it and got the lens picked up when it fell out, and then I just took the other one out too, so I didn't lose it. But
I'll tell you something else I had to do when I was redoing both these tractors. Nobody ever. The first thing they do is they run the fuel line. They run the fuel line from the tank to the carburetor, and they never put it back original, and they do
originally
the sediment bolt.
Yeah.
So I had to go. I think we got extra in here. I don't know. I wound up with 2 or 3. I couldn't.
Yeah, it bolts to the side of the.
I did have one hidden here somewhere. Yeah, right here. I actually come up with an extra one in the shuffle.
Wow.
And
there you go.
That's if I need it, I can put it on either one. Something like
the 600 had a thing, and I've never found anything like it, but I think that Williams does have the seal for it, but it's got like a shut-off valve that you just push in or something, but it's got like a cork on the end of it. It was leaking terrible, so I took it out for now until I can figure out what to do. But it's a weird little thing. It's made of brass, and it fits right in there, and the fuel line screws into it. So if you want to keep it nice, you got to use it. But I don't know.
You notice you start your diesel different. You do a gasoline.
Okay, how's that? I see.
Well, right here, you pull this out. Right here, that's what starts it.
Because it's got.
And you have to pull this out.
It's got a lever.
Yeah, you pull it out. It just goes right back on the cable. And I never found these in the United States. I had to. That one was all right, but this in here was burned up or something. I don't know, so I had to replace this one, which I keep an extra one anyway.
That's neat. I don't know. Yeah, that is a cable operated solenoid.
Yes, it's over here, just like this right here. Well, I won't have to worry about starting that.
Yeah, battery dead.
Battery's dead. I'll have to charge that up. I know last time I started it, you kind of thin, but I'd say it probably needs a battery. See, like that right
Oh, that's neat.
That's how you start it.
That is neat.
Dad always said you could park one in the middle of town, nobody'd move.
Yeah, nobody would know how to do that. Huh.
I didn't realize that one was dead. I'll I'd say the battery's probably gone on anyway. I just started it not too long ago and it cranked off so slow when I did it.
That is neat though. No, next time you find a gas one of these down here for sale, boy, I might have to come back because I wouldn't mind having a.
Well, if you want me to, I'll meet some. I mean, I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Keep looking. I mean, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but.
Well, I know what you're saying about.
Yeah.
But
if you run across one, let me know, cause.
I will. I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Because I think it's neat to have the different versions of them.
I mean, the guy who's been working on one. He bought one. Well, it was on Facebook Marketplace. He bought it off there, and he's over in Virginia. And he sends me messages all the time, you know, on the carburetor and lifts and all that stuff. And I'll tell you something notorious on these is this lift lever. This lift lever right here.
Yeah, see, mine's not right, and I need to take that apart. And you told me once how to do all that, and I gotta really have my brain in the right place to understand all that. Cause
there is 4 washers. Now you see how stiff this is
yeah.
going to stay? Which that right there is nothing but a marker. It's like if you're plowing.
One of mine, I think mine is real loose, like it just flops on one.
See how tight that is?
Yeah.
What that is, there's a washer, friction washer. There's 4 of them. One's inside here.
Okay.
One's here, and then one's out here. And there's 4. There's 2 small ones and 2 big ones.
Okay.
And anyway, there's you have to take. There's a pin you have to drive out. Little dowel pin. Pull that off. There's an O-ring in there. You take all these off, pull that out, and that gives you access to pull this out. But here's the kicker. You'll have to take the brake
lever off because it goes through the casting. Yeah.
You'll have to take it because you can't get this out without it.
So mine, if you lift it all the way up, it sounds like it wants to just keep lifting and it will never stop. So what you have to do is lift up whatever you want to lift up and then push it down a little till you hear it stop trying to pump, and then then it'll stay on.
Right here.
Okay.
Let me show you something.
Yeah, because that's.
Yeah, I'll show you on this one.
I'm sure that I will learn all about this because the 600 doesn't have any 3-point on it anymore. So.
Listen to this.
Click.
Okay, that's where mine's going out at.
Okay.
Okay. What you do is you get it to where it'll click when that pin goes through it. See, this ain't got a pin in it.
Okay. Oh, I see. I never even noticed that before.
It's got lock drawbars up.
For when you got the wagon drawbar on, you put that pin in, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, now. Hear it?
Yeah, it clicked again.
Yep. Okay.
So that tells it.
Lift lever up. This, and what it does, if you don't.
Yeah.
That will run all the time.
And that's what mine's doing.
They'll actually push fluid out right here in this corner.
Really?
Yeah, now I'll tell you something else too. I don't know how free this is. Probably ain't.
That little lever.
Yeah, what I run into is people will call me and they say, my lifts don't work. Well, right there kicks them out completely.
Then they do nothing.
You ain't got nothing. Hear that?
So it's got to be down forward,
okay,
yeah.
I've had them, first thing I have them to check, when they ain't got no lifts, I'll say.
How's your lever?
Yeah, it's standing straight up, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how or why. But now, if you take it down,
you can.
There's a certain way you can take it all the way down, and then it'll hold pressure on it all the time, and that's for a loader.
Oh, okay. So I wonder then.
Over, it's right here. It's all the way down.
If on the
now here, right here's where it should be.
In the middle, and then up is off.
Right there, completely. That shuts the whole system down. That's where you're hearing that clicking. See?
Yeah.
That's what it's doing right here.
So what's inside that box that makes it that you got to change to make it? Because I'm sure it looks like somebody's been into mine because they got a homemade gasketry on there and stuff. There you go. But
I may have it kick.
How about that? So if you have it set up for a loader, your 3-point won't work if you have that lever all the way down.
Yeah. Your 3-point will have pressure on it all the time. So
okay.
It's running all the time, bro.
Okay, so that 600 is missing the lift arms, and it's missing this whole thing here is gone. Somebody has plumbed up a remote valve.
Well, that valve should have been right.
And that guy said I could never get that to work, but I wonder if that's because this lever's not in the right place back here. See, it's got everything in the back, but it doesn't have the front stuff.
You see this plate right here? I had to put it on that one. Elmer Landman sent me that. Right here's where you plumb in with the loader.
Oh, okay.
You take that plate off. I've actually got the remains of it down there. And what it was, my lifts wasn't working right. When I finally got the thing started and running, my brother-in-law helped me get it going. And we got it going, and the lifts wouldn't work right. And I called Peter Williams, or Elmer Lehman. I called him, and he told me what to do. And I took that out, and he sent me this plate on that tractor there. He sent me this plate to put back over and told me what to do. But that's where you plumb into your external hydraulics and your loader.
What's behind there?
There's a place where you can put a valve in there. You can go tap into a line.
Okay.
Right in there, you catch it coming through.
Okay.
If I remember right, it's been so long I had the plate off. I've got the parts book on these tractors. And now I've got a service manual, but it's for a 850 and it don't show nothing on gas. Everything that you
is on diesel.
Is all diesel. But it helps me with the lifts, and it'll help you with the steering and stuff like that, and brakes.
Well, if you find any parts, I know for that 600 I'm going to need this all right here, because that's all missing. I don't even have the brake handle because it goes through that, you know. So they took that all off, and I don't know what they cobbled up, but I asked that guy what he thought it did. And he said, I don't know. I asked what kind of crops they raised, you know, that they'd need a high crop. And I don't know. I think it probably ran a irrigation pump or something, because they had those switches on to shut it down if it got low oil pressure, you know. And so I don't know. But, yeah, I think these things are cute as can be. I don't know. So I know some people don't like them, but, boy, I do.
Like I said, I mean, Dad had his before I was born, and had it till I was 11 years old, and of course, you know, that's the first tractor I ever got to drive by myself.
And you're...
and right here was my seat when I was a little boy.
Right on the lid
right
there.
Where I sat when I was a little boy, I used to drive Dad all the time on that right there. So I just, like I said, I just had to have one. I mean, you know,
and all that equipment out there, except for the disc, is the equipment that you had with it, huh?
Yeah, there's the mowing machines out there.
And the plow. And the
plow is out there. And plus, there's other equipment that comes from the same dealer that Dad bought new the next year.
Oh.
Like there's a grater blade, a set of one-row cultivators, which I've got up on the hill up there behind Mom's. I've got the 170 Oliver spreader was bought the next year. I've got a Bearcat corn grinder that's bought the next year. But anyway, Dad, which I don't have a back setter, but Dad went, I think he wound up giving it to my great uncle later down through the years, because he bought a mechanical, but it was a PAL and he hated it. And it skipped a lot. But I think that second time when he went back, that next year when he went back, he bought the manure spreader, which was all 170, Bearcat corn grinder, grater blade, one-row cultivator, and the backer setter. I don't think I left anything out. And I've got all but the backer setter and the corn grinders the corn grinder and the manure spreaders up on the barn up there on the hill behind Mom's house. That when we passed up there. And I've got two mowing machines. One I bought at a sale. It's got a 6-foot bar on it.
356.
Yeah, and the other one's the original one. It's the 7-foot is the one that comes with the tractor. And then the plows down there, they come with the tractor.
That's neat.
And they're down there now with, of course, the 330 disc. You know, if you want to walk down there.
What's that right there?
That's the Leroy. That's
the Leroy. Okay, yeah, you were. That's cool.
That's the one that comes with the 355. And my grandpa on my mom's side had that disc. And Dad wound up with it. Now I got it.
Yeah, that's a Ford disc, and yeah. I had.
Okay, here is the accelerator that Dad sent from the year after Dad bought the tractor. And here is the original mowing machine that Dad bought with the tractor. That's the original mowing machine. Here's one I bought to sale. Somebody painted it blue and thought he was buying a Ford. And here's the original plows that come with that tractor. And I picked them out.
3241, I believe, right?
Yeah, they never did have a tag on.
The difference is this right here is all I found. The other ones, the Coulter came out on this as one piece.
Okay.
And then the later ones, they both.
That guy said he traded for this disc. Guy bought, he sold it to a guy. And the guy he disced it with it, and he said, I can't cut nothing with that. and he come back in and traded it in for a wheel disc.
So
That's
it
how
was
he sold
practically
them
new.
out. And here's the bolts I put in it.
Huh.
I put these bolts in, and you see it just needs to be cleaned up and primered and painted.
Yeah.
The tag, I took it off right here. You can tell where it's been.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it in my building over there, hitting the rivets.
See, my other one's got a tag on it, so I figured if nothing else, like I said, make one real nice one and then one that you can use and not worry about or something, you know.
Now, Dad, I'll tell you something else too. People don't realize it, but they had their own special pins.
Really? What did they look like?
What they was no different than any other pin. Like, you know, you got a pin, you put your lock pin in.
Mm-hmm.
The other side was the same way.
Oh,
okay. No
okay.
head on it.
No head on it. So you go through either way.
But you had to have locking pins on both sides. And I actually made a set for it, but I mean, they're not. I should have had somebody machine shop do it. But when Dad traded it off, it had the original pins in it. When he traded it off, I wished he'd kept them, knowing where it was going. But you see how I trade for it. It had good cutters on it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good shape.
Seemed like I give riding $500 for it.
Yeah, that one I got that had trouble and broken blades and stuff, I think I gave $300 for it. So,
now,
you know,
Dad's in time because we weighed it down to try to get it cut. This was all re-welded on Dad's.
Got broke a little bit.
His was broke plumb back to here. On his.
That's like you said, you can always tell one because of these right there, and then the slanted deal here with the 3 holes. That's I
can spot one
from a mile away, huh?
Almost down to Mom's. So I bought that one to replace the one that Dad had because I thought, well, I've got the whole receipt.
Got the whole set of all the stuff on the receipt, yeah.
That's the wagon is down there in the barn. It's 5024.
I think I've seen pictures when you've had it out for stuff.
It sits down in the barn. And you've probably seen bukus of pictures of that.
Gray one.
The manure spreader.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to see it, I'll take you up there and show you to you on the hill. But if you want to see it, it's like I said. I mean, you know, only thing that's you would, if you know it, you can tell it. But where the hitch was broke out half a dozen times, because Dad would loan it and he'd come back, people turn into the tongue and he'd come back where the hitch broke and turned upside down and everything. And Dad used to put new hitches in it. Well, he must have had trouble getting one. My sister's husband, he done a good job with it. If you didn't know it, you'd think it was factory. But I thought if I ever found one, an old one scrapped out somewhere or new old
a tongue,
I'd put the hitch in it. You know.
5025, huh? Or 5024.
That's the wagon. I'm talking about the 170 manure spreader.
Oh, okay.
See, people would borrow it, you know, and they'd turn back into it, and they'd break it. Well, he'd come back, welded up, turned upside down, and Dad would go get a new hitch because they had them out there at D&H Olive Sales. So we'd go out there and get it. It wasn't that much back then. Dad would get one, I'd bolt it in. Well, so I guess he must have had trouble that last time. And my sister's husband made one. And he done a good job with it. But, you know, like I said, you know, I'd lay this one up if I took it out and everything. But I would like to find one, you know, that actually for it. If I found one, you know, I've kind of looked around and like found one junked out, maybe back by the spreader for part, somebody else have the rest of it. But down there in the barn, I've got a David Brown, Dad's Ford, and the last tractor he had, which I broke in when I was in high school. And I've got that little Ferguson. I've run the wheels off of it.
That's something.
So I don't shut that.
Yeah, I know. They'll find it. Yeah. They're pretty good about that. Okay. I think this is neat. I mean, when are you ever going to see another one of these?
I always meant to send it out to a guy that I get to work on stuff and see if he won't redo it sometime. I never did. It's got to have wheels.
That's the kind of thing I would drag home there.
What would help it if I'd ever mow around it.
That's cool. I mean, I think I've seen some that they made where they were like half air compressor tractors, but I don't think I've ever seen one that was just a little tractor like that.
I don't know the first thing about it. But I was told But they was made in the late 40s and early 50s, and they was a road mowing tractor.
Oh, that would
And
explain
that
it.
has got yellow paint. What I've been around it, like underneath stuff, you'll see yellow paint in places.
It looks like something they would sell for that. I mean it. Yeah.
And the guy that had the Super 55, he said that the 55 had never run for him, and he said the guy that had that thing before him, he said claimed it run. I don't know if it did or not, I don't know. But anyway, the guy that had the Super 55, like I said, he finally called me up. It was on Friday night, as I was telling you a while ago. He called me on Friday night, and he said, well, he said, I've just decided to sell you at 55 and throw in the Leroy.
There.
And he said, I'll bring them to you. And that's when I sent Sandy to the bank. And I got my money back out of it. So
Yeah, that ain't a bad deal, and you still got something left too.
So, well, I let the girl have that. Let her ride through the parade.
Yeah, whenever I get time to work on that 600, I'm sure I'll learn a bunch because, like I said, it's been modified quite a bit. So
I didn't realize the battery's dead now. I need to take that lid off and put the charger on there. I'd say it probably I'd let it sit long enough. I know it's the last time I tried to start it. It wasn't that long ago. Because I try to start them every so often, let them run one at a time where I can hear them run while I'm working out here. And anyway, here a while back, it cranked off slow. If it hadn't hit as quick as what it did, and they're the startingest little fellas you ever seen.
yeah, that's the way that other ones are too. They just fire right up. I mean, they had it figured out over there. However they did it, I mean, they knew what they were doing.
I can clean them up, put them in here, and I back my trailer up and put the ramps down right here.
Oh, just drive her straight in the trailer.
And drive her straight. That's why I ain't got no pipe on it, cause
Yeah.
And anyway, drive it straight in the trailer. Oh, I guess you might have seen some of this stuff.
Yeah, I've seen them on Facebook.
Yeah,
you put
I
them
have
up
a time out of them. Yeah.
Little model 600. And
There's my dad sitting on that tractor there.
oh, that's cool.
And there's that picture.
Oh yeah,
Greg, right there's the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
Actually,
seeing that.
That's my dad loading hay with this tractor right there.
That's cool.
And there's some of them pieces when I was at the show.
Thank you for
For
when that was at the where was the 500 of them? Let's see, first gathering.
West
that was
Lafayette.
the one in Ohio. Oh, okay.
Was that West Lafayette?
I remember when you were the one at Madison, Indiana.
That was
a few.
the third one, but the second one I was at.
Okay.
West Lafayette, I think was it West Lafayette? I don't know.
That's up in Purdue country there, West Lafayette. Yes.
Yeah, I went up there, but I don't remember if I took a tractor or not.
That's cool.
I don't see on it what it says it's at. I guess, I don't know. Trophies, I've won them things. And I mean, I don't even go to, I'm not into trophy shows.
Yeah, I know,
I'm not
that's
into
a heck of a trophy for a tractor show, you know.
Especially for an Oliver 500.
Yeah, for something. Yeah, that's the thing. People, like for a long time, the collectors just did not want anything to do with these because they were made somewhere else.
They had the Fiat.
Yeah, and the Fiats, they hate a Fiat. And I think Nelson...
The Fiat.
I do too. I think they're some of the best utility tractors ever made. And I know whenever Nelson came down, I don't think he was enthused with the Fiats. I was telling him about them. I had some there, and he could have cared less about that. But
see what
I don't know.
It worked out. That dealer, the D&H Oliver sales.
Yeah, I wonder why he never got any Fiats to sell.
The D&H Oliver sales.
Yeah, or did he? Later?
He put several Fiats in this country because that's mainly what he sold. See where we're Hillside Farms.
Yeah, those little utilities
selling,
like that are good.
He started out selling 1250, 1255s, so he come along. And then he put a handful of 1355s, but he put more 1365s in here than anything.
I was going to say, that's the best one ever made. A 1365 is the best utility tractor ever made.
And nobody ever got the lever right on the...
Yeah, see, that's what killed a lot of them. And if it wasn't for that, why... They're the best. I mean, they have enough power to do about anything. And like you said, on these hills, it'd be perfect.
Across the hill here, going up this other road, past it going in. There's a guy bought one brand new off of D&H Oliver sales. in 1973,
Uh-huh.
and that tractor's still sitting in his barn. He's on a
That's
walker
cool.
now, last I heard.
That's
but his
cool.
tractor is still sitting in that barn. It's a 1365, bought brand new.
That's
and which he's got a couple of 550s. One of them actually his dad bought new, but it comes from D&H Oliver Sales out there. But see, when Dad bought his stuff, D&H Oliver Sales, that's before their time.
okay.
They hadn't went in business till right after Dad bought everything. Now we bought several parts out there because it was actually easier for us to drive as you passed it, and it was to go all the way to Camargo. See where Camargo?
Yeah, I drove on that highway or whatever.
You go back, you'll pass a place be on your left going back called Camargo Salvage.
Okay.
Had a bunch of murals painted on the building.
Okay.
That is where.
That was the dealer, huh?
That's where Camargo Tractor Sales was at.
And that's
right
where
there.
this came from, right?
That's
there?
exactly right. That's where it come from when it was new, right there. Now there was more buildings around there then, but anyway, but the main building that Lonnie wound up in is Camargo Salvage is still there to this day.
That's cool.
It just changed hands half a dozen times. But and on that breather hose, which you don't have a problem on diesel.
Yeah.
I had to make them breather hoses. Them is
To go to the carburetor.
them is filler hoses.
It's like a 90-degree on both ends.
Yeah,
of
them's
them.
filler hoses. There's where you, I don't can't even tell you what vehicle, but they're for where you put gas in a car, truck.
Oh yeah,
It's
like
a filler
that.
hose. What they mean. And I didn't want that flexible stuff, you know.
Yeah, well, that's such a short bend.
mean,
I
it's
don't
all
think
right.
I don't think you could get one to bend that short.
I mean, that's all right if you're just going to work one, but
And it's two different sizes on each end, isn't it? Too.
Yeah.
So that's another trick about it.
I went to the parts house one day and they had a bunch hanging on the rack, and I just tell you what, I probably spent 30 minutes. I had to cut it. I had to carve it to fit though. You know?
That's what I had to do on that 1250 gas to get one to go from the air cleaner to the carburetor, because it's a big difference. It's like the filter is maybe like 2.5 and the carburetor's maybe like 1 inch. So it was a big difference to do a 90-degree to that much difference.
You remember how much oil that you put in that 500?
You know, I'm thinking the other day, I don't know that I've ever changed the oil in it
Take
yet.
right out of the case.
Really?
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why
They hold a ton of oil. Huh?
That's why, and the water too. That's why they never wore out.
Because they stayed cool.
They stayed cool and everything. Now that's like I took that and had that radiator record. And back then it cost me $400. Well, I took it in and laid it down. It was a well-known radiator place about an hour from here. They work on a lot of construction equipment stuff. Well, anyway, I told him what I had, and he said, "Yeah, bring it up." You know. I said, "You don't realize what I got. We'll get a cord for it. Don't worry about it." I said, "All right." And they did.
They did.
Well, anyway, I laid it down on we took it up there and laid it on the table, and he said, "What's that out of it, dozer?" I said, "No, it's out of a 35 horsepower tractor." But it takes about a case of oil, change oil, and I think 11 quarts is what they think of.
That's on my list of stuff to do, because it's never had that. I never have done that. I haven't used it much. I mean, I spray fences with it, have my little wand and just drive it around, because it goes, you can put it in low gear and just put along, and just it's the perfect thing for it. So, yep.
Now, some of the old timers, we never did bale hay, or some of the old timers said it was a good baling tractor.
Really? I know. Grandpa would never put a little tractor on a baler, because he said that just wears them out. He'd always put a bigger one so that when that plunger hit, it didn't shock it so much. But
I see the thing of it is, we was on these little hillsides and them little bottoms.
you
like
gotta
that
have
down
that.
there, so you know we just
stability of these little
you
things.
know, where you turn the thing around, you know, and so.
Yeah, you wouldn't get along very good with a tall tricycle tractor out here. Very good.
And not much did you ever see a wagon behind a baler down in here.
Yeah, see, that's odd too.
Because
Yeah.
on the hillsides, what it was.
You just throw them off all the time.
Well, it was what it'd do. It'd push you. Like you start around.
When you start getting the weight.
Yeah, you get about half load on that wagon, and you'd wind up in Egypt if you hadn't careful, scooting off a hill.
Oh boy. Well, pretty cool. All right, so hopefully you got something out of that. David's a super nice guy. I met him several years ago when I bought this tractor, and he reached out to me because this one is super original and has stuff on it that is often lost. And anyway, it was fun to see his tractors and then to talk to him in person and be around one that we could point out stuff, because he grew up with one of these. Like, this was, his dad had a gas one, and if you caught in the story, the way the story goes, that his dad had it overhauled in the 70s, like 75 era, And it took a long time by that time for them to find parts, because that would have been like 10 plus years after they quit with this deal, you know, with the David Brown Oliver connection. So as he said, when they were trying to get parts for it, or the dealer was trying to get parts to overhaul his dad's tractor, they had to deal with the David Brown dealer, the Oliver dealer, and look all around to get the stuff. Finally got it done. And it wasn't too long after that, the tractor caught fire, unfortunately, somewhere under the dash, and it burnt. And he said, I remember years ago when I read that story in the magazine when he was talking about it, the tractor would have been fixable, but his dad was over it because it was hard to get parts. So he let him, the dealer actually bought it back for parts, and it became a parts tractor. So unfortunately, his dad's tractor was parted out, long gone, you know. But years later, David was able to find another tractor that dealer had sold at the same time as his dad's, and so he bought that and fixed it up. And that was the one that was sitting in front in the little building when we were talking. That's the one he had first. And it even had, that dealer sold so many of them, he even made like modified brush guards to fit on the front bumpers, using the pads there on the side. And a couple years ago, he bought another 500 for parts up in Indiana here, and it ended up to be such a nice tractor that he fixed that one too. So he's got 2 gas 500s, and that's super cool because, you know, that's just another variation. And I wouldn't mind having a gas one, just to say I did. If I wanted to have the whole set of these, as far as variations go, I could have a gas 500, a later 500 like this that had 6-lug wheels. That would be diesel only. I've seen a few of high crop 500s, and then if I could have a low down 600. So there'd be potentially 4 more variations before I could say I had a pretty good representation of what they had made. But I've got 2. I've got this one and that 600 high crop. And like I said, David knows a lot about it because he grew up on one, and he was messing with one for years. And if you knew we were talking about Nelson LeCount was the guy who kind of led the charge on making a registry and stuff about these. He bought one and thought it was, you know, neat and whatever. But Nelson was just kind of like the front man. He was good about going around and putting boots on the ground and visiting people and finding out more and stuff. But on the technical side, he would have to phone a friend a lot of times. I liked Nelson too. I met him a few times. He came down here once. We talked a little bit about that in the video. Nelson actually offered for me to buy his whole lot of stuff when he knew that his health was going bad. He came down here and he wanted me to take the whole works. The registry, all his parts, all his new parts, his parts tractor. Anyway, we're getting too hot again, but long story short, Nelson wanted me to buy the whole works, and he priced it to me, and I seriously considered it. I mean, but it was a lot of money that I didn't have at the time, and there was a lot of that stuff that I couldn't have kept it together. I would have had to sell some to get my money back to pay off if I would have taken out a loan to buy that stuff, and I wasn't going to do that. I couldn't take out a loan. I would have bought probably 4 or 5 of his tractors. I would have probably done that and whatever, but the other thing is the trucking, friends. By the time I would have trucked the stuff here, that was a long ways from northern Indiana down here. Even a gooseneck load at a time, you could probably only get 3 or so of these on, and we would have had to make like 6 or 8 trips or more, and it just wasn't going to happen. Then later on, after he died, it was about a year ago now or so, maybe not quite a year, he was going to have an auction, or his family was going to have an auction, and then the auction got rescheduled, and I couldn't go on the rescheduled date, and that really was not very, wasn't happy about that, because I didn't even get to go, and I tried to call the auctioneer and talk to him, and I was going to leave bids on stuff, and he wasn't interested in doing that. He's like, I guess if you want it, you'll be here. And I thought, well, I guess you don't know that I would actually, I would have bid on every piece. I would have left a bid on absolutely everything, and it would have probably helped his sale, but he wasn't interested in that, so that's just the way she goes, you know. I would have loved to had all of his new parts that he had made, because he was the one who had all the stuff made, like these battery lids and the grills and things. And I would have liked to had that, just if nothing else, so I could have had more made, you know, for patterns to help people, or if I find more of them. And that just wasn't to be. You know, I called his wife. She did sell me one last. She pulled it out of the auction pile, but she sold me one of these for that 600. And so the parts I got from her for that were it. That was the last of the parts before the auction. And I really wish I could have made it. It couldn't be. It just was not possible. And so I do kind of regret that, but I think hopefully it all went to good homes. I saw 2 of the tractors in the pictures at the winter get-together, so at least 2 of them are in collector hands. But he had a lot of tractors that were parts tractors, or, you know, they needed to be restored tractors, and I don't know what happened to them, you know. That's a shame. I hope they didn't get scrapped, because they had more value to me than that. I would have left a bid on them, but 'twas not to be, friends. Anyway, I would have bought, there was another one, we were talked about that in the video a little bit too, on Facebook Marketplace. There for a while, some tractors started showing up, and there was a 500 gas in Ohio, and I messaged that guy right away, but it became obvious very quickly that I don't think I was dealing with the right guy. Like, I think it was a scam, or the guy I was dealing with was selling it without the real owner knowing, because another person sent me a picture of the same tractor and said it was his neighbor, and said the neighbor had said this, and he said, if you want it, I'll go get it and whatever. And I said, well, something's not right here, because I answered an ad and it was a different amount. So I've never heard any more about that deal, so I guess that tractor is lost. But it was definitely rough shape, but they ain't making any more, so, you know, I'll find one eventually. It's just I don't know, the 500 gas is kind of neat, because it's got louvers in the hood in different places, because I guess the gas motor got super hot. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know if this video really made a lot of sense. I mean, it was just 2 guys talking about stuff we liked, but David's a nice guy. I was glad to finally meet him in person. And like I said, when you're there with the tractor, you can start discussing things with the tractor in front of you, and it makes you think of other things, and it's fun to bounce ideas off each other and learn some more stuff, you know. So hopefully we get to go meet him again. Their dealer down there sold a ton of these. A lot of them were gas too, so it's possible that maybe he'll find me a gas one sometime and we'll go back down there and get one. But he said he thought there was, I think he said he knew where there was like half a dozen of them still where they were when they were sold new down there. So that's a very unusual number for one dealer to end up with so many. But the story that he told on there, you know, is the dealer was offered a whole lot of them, like 25 at a time, I think, or something, and he had to buy a bunch, and, you know, then he could get a good deal, bring them back home 3 at a time and sell them to customers, and pretty well had them all sold before he ever got them home. So pretty neat stuff. But the 500 and 600 are pretty sweet little tractors. These David Brown diesels especially, they run like a clock. I mean, they're fun. I like this little tractor. It's probably more fun to drive than a Super 55 or a 550, just for whatever reason. I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. It's kind of more comfortable for me, really. It's still hard to get on. The foreign tractors have a kind of a narrow operator's platform to get your feet in to start with, but other than that, you know, the seat's more comfortable, I think, and it's a nimble little fellow with a sweet running little engine. So pretty cool. But I just figured that was enough footage that we could make our own video with David Brown tractors, and instead of making the 550 going to get it video like 3 hours long. So sure. But as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. After watching what you just saw, do you feel like your IQ has dropped lower than your credit score? Well, there's no reason that both of us should be miserable, so go ahead and hit that thumbs up and leave a comment. That stuff costs you nothing, and it really helps me out. Your banker may not approve, but I know mine will. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.